best tentacle monster movies that horror fans will cherish for sure. Throughout the history of filmmaking, directors and writers have used animals as part of their stories. Among the various creatures and beasts we've seen on screen, the most complex one remains the octopus, or anything similar with tentacles. The predatory outlook of a tentacled behemoth commands the storytelling. But that is not all. They also represent ideas that are more intrinsic to humans. Sinister metaphors are attributed to the shape of tentacles. For example, Marvel's cinematic universe features an evil organization called HYDRA, which harbors elements of Nazism. And the emblem of the organization is an octopus with a human skull. Similar imagery and symbolism has been used to describe criminal organizations and their power to infiltrate other institutions.
It's out of control. You've got to turn it off. No, I want to see more.
Furthermore, before tentacled monsters became a part of films, they were used in art and literature. One can find the use of octopuses in art as early as 1814 in a painting called The Dream of the Fisherman's Wife by the Japanese artist Katsushika Hokusai. In Japan, the use of these monsters became more prevalent after the government imposed censorship on any depiction of male and female reproduction. The artists and filmmakers found a way around the law using tentacles to emulate such imagery. This newfound fashion for hedonistic theatrics and storytelling spread its tentacles to many parts of the world.
Before we go into our list, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click from you, but it means a lot to us. Thank you. Let's begin.
Possession. 1981. The story begins with Anna wanting a divorce from Mark, who has just returned from a business trip. This request shocks Mark, as he believed that the marriage was a happy one.
You're always right! But it's difficult, don't you understand? It is difficult!
The couple starts getting into altercations with one another, which soon turn from verbal to physical. Their little son Bob gets caught up in this marital crossfire. Mark believes that Anna is having an extramarital affair and he hires a private detective to prove it. While Mark tries to save his marriage, he gets into a complicated relationship with Bob's teacher Helen, who is Anna's lookalike. Mark later finds out that Anna is, in fact, in a relationship. But to his surprise, her mate is a tentacled beast. Not only does Anna sustain the creature, she also makes love to it.
Inhuman? So what you're doing must be human. How long is it going to last?
I don't know.
Polish director Andrzej Sulowski gives the film's title a dual meaning. On the one hand, it is a film about a woman making love to a dreadful creature which leads to the end of her marriage. On the other hand, it is a film about the pursuit of pleasure and subsequent overconsumption. The Cannes award-winning performance by Isabelle Adjani, who plays Anna, is visually striking and extremely brave and bold. The French beauty displays grace in the moment she shares with the tentacled beast, but at the same time, she doesn't ignore the recurring themes of unfulfilled desires, domination, and isolation. The beast that Zulawski has designed for the viewers is horrid, terrorizing, and profanely evil. It is incredibly penetrative, and not just physically, but also emotionally and mentally. Sam Neill, who plays Mark in the film, once said that Possession is his favorite of all the movies that he has acted in. Deep Rising, 1998. Captain Finnegan is hired by Hanover and his band of mercenaries who board a luxury cruise ship called Argo Nautica to rob the vault and the affluent passengers. After robbing the ship, the mercenaries intend to sink it using torpedoes. Upon reaching the vessel, they find bloody skeletons of the passengers and almost no one alive. Soon, the group is attacked by a mammoth sea monster that has tentacles with spikes or teeth. Finnegan meets Trillian, who was imprisoned for stealing. The beast takes over the ship with its tentacles, hunting any person alive. Trillian and Finnegan spot an island a few nautical miles away, which seems to be the only way that they save themselves from this sea monster. The last scene of the film has an exciting revelation.
Oh my God.
Another grand luxury cruise ship went down, but this time there's no fatal wrong turn into an iceberg, and rather an elephantine monstrous creature with spiky tentacles that loves to suck human bodily fluids and spit out the skeletons. The film was directed by Stephen Sommers and stars Treat Williams, Famke Janssen, Jamon Hounsel, Kevin J. O'Connor and Anthony Held in essential roles. Sommers mixes the horror genre with science fiction in Deep Rising and gives effect to this heterogeneous theme with abundant CGI use. The sea monster spreads its numerous tentacles all over the ship and eats all living things that get in the way. The bloodbath is just enough to keep the viewer well interested but doesn't get creepy or gory. Also, there's decent humour throughout the film, especially when O'Connor is on screen.
No doubt. Are you hitting that thing again? No.
The distant island that Trillian and Finnegan discover is in fact Skull Island from the King Kong universe. Sommers was supposed to direct a King Kong film with Deep Rising as a lead-in, but the project never began. We give this detail so that you understand that the alien animal featured here is comparable to Kong or even Godzilla. Harbinger Down, 2015. In 1982, a Soviet moonlander crashed into the Bering Sea, only to be found by biology students Sadie and Ronell and their professor Stephen. The trio was studying the impact of global warming on whales when they found the sunken and frozen moonlander, which contained human corpses. Sadie starts to research the cosmonaut's body and finds tardigrades.
It's a tardigrade.
Also known as a water bear.
Which are extremophiles or highly hardy organisms which can survive extreme conditions and even cosmic radiation. When the cosmonaut's body goes missing, Stephen accuses Sadie of hijacking the great discovery.
Oh, why would I throw it over?
Hey, if you can't have the credit, no one can. Is that it?
That's bullshit.
They later realized that these organisms survived the radiation but developed a mutation that now allows them to shapeshift and infect other living organisms. The infected people transform into savage creatures with tentacles who brutally kill or infect others. The ship becomes ground zero of a small alien invasion. In 2011, Amalgamated Dynamics, or ADI, who specialize in animatronics and prosthetic makeup, were hired to make The Thing. In the end, the producers chose to go ahead and use CGI instead, and so ADI were left with many unused monsters. Alec Gillis crowdfunded the money for this movie, making it around these monsters. Despite the loose screenplay and amateur directorial skills, if you're up for a creature feature, you are sure to have a blast with this film. The movie flaunts some spine-chilling scenes of alien beasts with razor-sharp teeth and tentacles, who are hell-bent on harming the ship's crew fatally. They are downright impressive and terrifying, and thoroughly justify the film's horror and science fiction genre. We suggest this movie because of the use of practical effects for the aliens instead of CGI. Void, 2016. The film starts with a young man burning a woman alive, and a wounded drug addict is seen running towards the woods. He is noticed by Officer Carter, who then takes him to the hospital where Allison works as a nurse. Allison and Carter had a relationship that broke off due to the loss of a child.
As you know, Daniel, there's nothing worse than losing a child.
The hospital is understaffed, unilluminated, and has only a handful of eerie patients. Soon, we see a nurse named Beverly killing a patient before being shot down by Officer Carter. As soon as he shoots her, he falls into a seizure and sees some cosmic and supernatural images of a dystopian world with a giant black pyramid floating in the sky. Carter gains consciousness only to find that cloaked figures have surrounded the hospital and Beverly has turned into a tentacled ghostly beast. The beastly Beverly is then attacked with fire axes. Meanwhile, Dr. Powell, who is the senior doctor of the hospital, is killed, but his body goes missing. Allison is also nowhere to be found, so Carter searches for her and finds a secret staircase that leads into a large dark room filled with undead creatures of all kinds. Meanwhile, a pregnant patient starts to have contractions. This is all a part of an elaborate plan by one of the characters to bring someone back to life and bridge the gap between the dead and the living.
The others have all gathered to witness my daughter's rebirth.
This film, directed by writer and director duo Jeremy Gillespie and Steven Kostanski, breaks barriers in terms of special effects-dominated gory horror films. The film couples Lovecraftian cosmic themes, witty, a flusy style of direction and screenplay. Having said that, the story of the film is both new and fascinating.
Help!
There's a scene when Beverly transforms into a tentacled beast that is hideously ugly and rotting flesh is lumping out of its body, and she has grown tentacles that penetrate the eyes and mouth of another character. While this beast tries to kill by penetration, its brain breaks through its skull. In another scene, Allison's stomach explodes outwards with extensively long tentacles while she is lying on a hospital bed. The undead monsters become more gruesome and nasty as this film approaches its end. The arteries, veins, and yellowish flesh of the creatures tears the skin away, laying the insides bare in the open. The Void is undoubtedly going to give you a few chills. Grabbers, 2012. A male and female alien come to a small island village of Ireland as an object rains from the sky near a fishing vessel. One of the crew's members is sucked out into the water. Mysterious disappearances amongst the locals follow this, and dead whales are found on the shores. Officers Shiran O'Shea and Lisa Nolan take the help of a few locals and a marine ecologist named Dr. Smith. These creatures from space are black, big, and have multiple tentacles that are incredibly agile. The officers discover that the aliens have come to Earth to populate themselves, and that the only weapon against the aliens is, well, we will let you find that out on your own. Although we'll tell you, it is awkwardly funny, and the film revolves around it. The female has laid many eggs and the male is on a killing spree. Our protagonists make some desperate attempts to save the village, though a permanent solution has to be found. Grabbers is a sci-fi horror comedy with some disturbing, blood-sucking, Lovecraftian aliens. The film's tone is set pretty early in the film when Lisa quotes,
"It's always the quiet places where the mad shit happens."
The film is filled with cosmic scenes and some nasty slashings perpetrated by the aliens. We see the alien only in the latter part of the movie, but director John Wright gives us a full-length visceral shot when it does arrive. Its tooth-filled circular mouth and the tentacles spreading out in all directions are a treat to the eyes. The male creature is much bigger than the female and makes most of the killings. The film is a fun ride, but never outgrows itself from the central theme of a creature feature. If that's what you're looking for in a movie night, then this is your go-to film.
Or you can make it hard.
Slither, 2006. The film begins with a meteor that breaks upon entering the Earth's atmosphere and lands on the sleepy town of Weasley. Out of this comes a hostile and sentient parasite that infects Grant. Parasite initially controls the mind and body of Grant, who develops an insatiable hunger for raw meat. Later, he develops rashes and pus-filled swellings on his skin, and finally tentacles grow out of his body, transforming him into a monster that will eat anything that moves. Grant impregnates a local named Brenda, who becomes a breeder for the parasitic alien. Brenda's body turns into a giant sphere that explodes with slug-like larvae, infecting all the residents except Grant's wife Starla, Police Chief Bill, Mayor Jack McReady, and one Kylie Strutmeyer. Grant later takes the matured form of the alien and is able to control hundreds of infected residents. His ultimate goal is to consume all living organisms on Earth. This is the debut film of legendary director James Gunn. The film did not fare well at the box office, but received mostly positive reviews from the critics. Gunn has graciously used both special effects and visual effects in this horror comedy.
I think you can fuck with me? Yep.
Although the story is not entirely original, Gunn has made an excellent effort to keep the audience engaged with a lot of funny dialogue and an impressive tentacled alien parasite that can control its hosts' minds. As the primary host, Grant matures by sucking other innards. Its tentacles grow significantly stronger and longer. These tentacles are the sentient monster's greatest weapons. Gunn develops a strong connection with his viewers, and although Slither is a horror film, he delivers much more than blood and guts. Tokyo Ghoul, 2017. The movie is set in Tokyo, where humans are in constant fear of human flesh-eating ghouls. Ken Kaneki dates a shy girl, Kamishiro Rizzi, but she attacks him as she is a ghoul herself. He manages to flee, but then becomes a ghoul himself. He chooses to live a peaceful life among other similar pacifist ghouls. But life is not easy for Ken, as two police officers want to eliminate all ghouls from the city, and Ken will have to live his ghoul life while hiding his true identity from the human world. Ghouls recognize other ghouls from the tentacle-like projections called kaguni that come out from their backs, vital organs that come out only when the ghoul needs to feed or fight. Ken has a difficult time hiding them, and by extension, hiding his dual life as a ghoul. The viewer can sympathize with him when Ken tries to eat regular food but fails to do so. It's heart-wrenching and irksome. The film comes with incredible amounts of gore and a number of visceral shots. It is intense and horrifying. The screenplay and music add the finishing touches to this thrilling Japanese film. From Beyond, 1986. Crawford Tillinghast and Dr. Edward Pretorius are scientists who have developed a machine called the resonator that stimulates the sixth sense in humans by activating the pineal gland in the brain. Crawford turns on the machine and sees creatures from another dimension. He then goes to Dr. Pretorius so that he can shut it down, but Pretorius refuses and is killed as a result, with Crawford subsequently being taken to an asylum on suspicion of schizophrenia.
We saw creatures, these...
At the asylum, Dr. Catherine McMichaels takes Crawford's custody from the cruel Dr. Roberta Bloch, and Detective Bubba stays with them. Together, they turn on the machine once again. we see Dr. Pretorius coming back to life in the form of an ugly Frankenstein-styled tentacled beast who is determined to kill people.
I do find you distracting.
In the struggles to stop Dr. Pretorius, Crawford undergoes a similar transformation. He then has a pineal gland protruding out of his forehead in the form of a worm-shaped tentacle, having been turned into a monster that eats brains. The climax is genuinely grotesque and savage, where two brain-eating tentacle beasts fight each other. H.P. Lovecraft, who is also called the Master of Macabre, penned the story on which this movie is based. Director Stuart Gordon updated the story and kept the central theme in which extra-dimensional beasts float all around us, but are imperceptible. Interestingly, Dr. Pretorius is named after the protagonist of Bride of Frankenstein and Dr. Roberta Bloch, after the author of Psycho. These names exemplify the themes explored in the feature of monstrosity and psychology. In the movie, Dr. Pretorius quotes,
"Into hers, it's the greatest sensual pleasure there is."
He achieves this apparently higher form of sensual pleasure from everyone he can wrap a tentacle around.
Norm! What the fuck? Ah, get it off! Get it off! Get this freaking thing off me!
The Mist, 2007. David Drayton and his son Billy go to the local supermarket to collect supplies after a storm has left the city without power. Soon, an inexplicable mist engulfs the entire town and the supermarket. The visitors of the supermarket are alerted by police sirens and the town's emergency siren. Extraterrestrial creatures start appearing from nowhere. There are giant bugs, spiders, and dinosaur-sized tentacled animals that are killing people. All of this was the result of an uncontrollable military operation that opened a portal for aliens to come through. The population inside the supermarket is divided into two groups, with David and Mrs. Carmody as their respective leaders. David attempts to work out plans to save everyone, while Mrs. Carmody gathers the more conservative followers by telling them that it is an apocalypse and the town is paying for its sins. She even goes so far as to suggest they make sacrifices. The trapped people will have to find a way to fight the monsters outside the supermarket and also the ones within. Based on a Stephen King novel and made by the celebrated director Frank Darabont, The Mist tells the story of humanity's weaknesses. Darabont has made the tentacle aliens seem as dangerous as the fallacies in humanity, but let's not get into the detail of the satire in this video. As the name suggests, the whole town is engulfed in a mist, and the viewer is made aware of the creatures' fatal natures by their long and powerful tentacles. These appendages slash people and drag penetrating bodies. The film has an ending that is shockingly sad and compelling. We suggest that you watch it to see for yourself. The Faculty, 1998. Cassie Connor is the school photographer for the school newspaper of Harrington High School in Ohio. Connor discovers a new species of a parasite that is dependent on water.
It can replicate. Jesus.
And soon, the teachers start acting strange, with Connor concluding that they might have been hiding something. He teams up with Delilah Prophet to investigate. They find out that an alien parasitic species is taking over the school faculty one by one, controlling their minds and bodies.
Mrs. Olsen attacked Nurse Harper. How did they do that?
The aliens are body-snatching and shape-shifting water-dependent beasts with tentacles in place you cannot imagine.
Fuck this, I'm out of here.
Among all this, there is also a new girl in the school named Mary Beth Louise, who is trying to become a part of the school's social circle. Cassie and Delilah use the help of other students to fight the invasive species that has taken over the school and the town's authorities. But will they succeed? The Faculty is another amalgamation of the horror, science fiction, and comedy genres. The villainous aliens from an all-oceanic world have tentacles sticking out of their nostrils that penetrate eye sockets and hurl even big lockers at humans. The parasites have spread their tentacles both literally and metaphorically around the school and will stop at nothing. This visually captivating film by Robert Rodriguez is star-studded with great actors like Jordana Brewster, Salma Hayek, Famke Janssen, Robert Patrick, and Elijah Wood, among others. Kevin Williamson wrote the screenplay using his trademark approach, penning a situation that sees a few teenagers fight against all odds to survive. Urotsukidoji, Legend of the Overfiend, 1989. Along with human civilization, there lived two other races on the face of Earth. One of them, Jujinkai, who are half human and half beast, while the other is Makai, which is a race of demons. According to legends, every 3,000 years, a supremely powerful being called the Chongjing or Overfiend is born and brings balance between the three races.
It says that every 3,000 years a great one named the Chojin will arise from the human world.
After centuries of endless searching, a Jujunkai named Amano Yoku finds that the Overfiend is a high school boy named Tatsuo Nagamo. The Makai believe Tatsuo is not the Overfiend but a diabolical force that will destroy Earth. It is the beginning of a new era or the beginning of the end.
Look, my brother, it's terrible. He's killing everyone!
This is a Japanese erotic manga, a graphic novel written by Toshio Mada. The manga is graphic in terms of its explicitly gratifying scenes and violations. The notorious scene where an unwilling victim is abused with a phallus-shaped tentacle of a beast comes early in the film and takes its inspiration from the famous woodblock painting called The Dream of the Fisherman's Wife. A similar tone is set in H.P. Lovecraft horror stories which glorified tentacle gods and aliens. This animated film sets the bar for blending intimacy and obscenity with extreme violence and brutality. We are not afraid to call it one of the classics of a socially unacceptable kind of horror. Underwater, 2020. Nora is a crew member in an underwater research site that's miles below the surface. Life on the ocean floor is dull and dark, with hardly any light or movement, but then something disastrous happens. In an earthquake, the site's hull breaks, killing almost all of the crew.
Rig will die. Shut the door now!
The ones who remain will have to walk on the ocean floor for a mile to another site and find emergency escape pods to survive. As the few survivors begin their journey, they realize that they are not alone in the depths of the ocean. Director William Eubank takes his audience on a claustrophobic thrill ride that is part disaster movie and part monster creature feature. It is a big budget film that has been well made in terms of optics. It might fall short in the script department, but the sea creatures that look like the offsprings of a kraken and a giant squid are sure to make your flesh crawl. The film stars Kristen Stewart in the lead role of Nora, who is a mechanical engineer. She delivers a careful and precise performance, displaying panic and fear, but at the same time, she is determined to see the light of day. The remaining crew struggles with the lack of oxygen and the deadly sea monsters in this spectacle, which shows off some spectacular SFX and VFX.
This is all the time we had for today's episode. We hope you guys liked it. It would be awesome if you guys can take some time to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to tell us which topic you want us to cover in the comment section. Have a fantastic day ahead and stay safe.